as we have got Romanticide for game number 1. Yeah, the other day, Armani showed up, played his first match, and unfortunately I was feeling very ill, so I decided to forfeit as well. So we've really had a couple of groups now which are going to have some forfeits, which is a little bit unfortunate. But like I say, such is life. No point getting hung up over it. Better to just get on with the Starcraft. Carry on with this fun little game that we've got, as we do have kicking us off in the bottom right hand side of the map. From Alpha X, the red Zerg player is going to be RagnaroK. Making a rather successful return from the military in the top left-hand corner of the map, our blue Terran player is KeeN. Yeah, he returned from the military not so long ago, got picked up by the Afrika Freaks. And looking good from there. Lag, asked RagnaroK. I did lag a little bit myself earlier, but when I was connecting to Korea, but that sometimes happens. Usually doesn't then affect the in-game. Hopefully this isn't actually a thing, because otherwise we're going to have a very okay, well, Enki's going to drop out for now. So maybe Enki. Hopefully it's not a thing, because otherwise we're in a little bit of trouble, obviously. As we get this up and ready to go. So, yeah, kind of cool to see KeeN making his return. And honestly, a somewhat successful one at that so far. I mean, it's early days, and yet he already seems to be doing so well. It's, yeah, very cool to be seeing him in play. As in the bottom right side of the map, our red Zerg player is RagnaroK, who's just been kind of around constantly good for the last few years. One of the things that I think is really cool is that KeeN's results really just are there. He's been just took a map of Zest in the most recent ESL Open Cup, for example. I think those kind of results are very telling. Zest is very powerful. In that PC for Man Super Tournament event, KeeN actually went 2-1 against Trap. I know these are TVP examples, but just to give you guys a bit of an idea, at least as to, you know, some of the results and some of the games that he's had lately. Just so you guys can be aware of maybe what to somewhat expect. Yeah, I'm actually looking back on his versus Zerg matches, and he beat RagnaroK a couple times. He lost to DRG. Obviously lost to DRG. Is that in the Code A? No, he lost to DRG in this season's qualifier. But he also lost to DRG in Code A last season in a close match. He hasn't really had a major win over, or win over any of what I would call the major Zerg players in Korea. But he honestly hasn't played many of them either. Okay, apparently 2-0 Dark in the ESL Open Cup 69, but I don't know what happened there. But that's like the only significant play he's played since his return in early May. Funnily enough, is the first Zerg that the last Zerg he beat before he went to the military was actually RagnaroK 2-0. Of course, that's a result from 2019. That's not something to properly look into, just a funny little occurrence, a funny little something for us there as this Reaper gets turned around from the front. And this was just going to be a little bit of an early setup with Gas Pool Hatch and then the Overlord Speed now on the way. So we're going to see RagnaroK investing into information and really just wanting to know what KeeN is going to try and do here in the early stages. KeeN did open and just play in general a lot of mech. Back in the GSL Code A last season. He played a lot of mech then, so I'm wondering if he's going to think about maybe bringing some mech here today as well. A good possibility, I would say, as the first Overlords make their way in looking for this information. This is triple CC, so it's nothing overly aggressive. It is continued Marine production, though, and so you're going to have a good amount of Marines to support these Hellions, so looking like we could probably Hellion run by and Marine drop. The other alternative would be to just drop the Hellions. I mean, you've kind of got a choice. Usually the Marine drop's that bit more popular because the Hellions can, like I say, get across the map on their own accord. and then the medevac bringing the Marines means you just have that multi-pronged aggression instead of, you know, kind of a singular attack. So that's oftentimes the way that people like to play it. The biggest risk of this is if there was 10, 20 lings on the map somehow and they were able to get in here now. There is nothing on the defense. The first few lings actually go down. RagnaroK just recently started a Rotron and a Bane Nest, things that obviously will not help in this defense. Oh, those lings, they ran around the Hellions and gave the Hellions honestly a chance to get another big shot off. That's going to be seeing a few Marines on the bottom here, nibbling away at a couple of units, and these couple of Zerglings still being roasted as the other lings are going to run around. I'm just going to chase down the Hellions and the Reapers. So, I mean, honestly, pretty good. I'm kind of genuinely somewhat surprised that these few Marines weren't able to do... the few Hellions weren't able to get more drones. But they killed off a lot of Zerglings, and I think that is the most notable thing here. 20 lings went down already to the 4 Hellions, and obviously 4 drones along with it. It's damage that you can't really be too upset about, I have to say, to begin with. It's... yeah, I think you can be pretty content with this damage so far, as Hellion's going to join up once again. And KeeN having just a really, really strong start, which is, you know, very promising already. The drone's going to get pulled in. These Hellions are going to get roasting. 5 workers going down. A group of Zerglings still falling. That's going to be the end of the Hellions. Anytime you lose these Hellions, sometimes I wonder, well, what about your map control? But we're going to see mech behind this. And if we're going to play mech behind this, well, first of all, the BC is not going to have any spores to fight, so that's going to be good for the battlecruiser. But if you don't have any, if you have mech behind this, you're going to keep building Hellions anyway. And if you keep building Hellions anyway, that's generally just a good sign for you. RagnaroK just noticed this BC, and he just now realized, oh crap, this is mech. And so he's just cancelled his melee upgrades to instead build his missile upgrades. Sorry, there was a spore crawler here. There wasn't one originally, right? It just moved, or it was nearby, I guess, and it relocated. He will still build a Spire, but we actually see double Thor now in production, which means we will not be affording another BC. At which point I do wonder kind of how effective is a Spire going to be. Do you want to build Corruptors when there's only one battlecruiser in play? No, not really. Could you build Mutas if you realize there's only one BC? That is something you could get away with, but then the Thors on the other side of the map will act as a really good defense. Yes, the Mutas would be a little bit more effective and a little bit better, but... I actually casted, that was a RagnaroK Gumiho series, where RagnaroK played a very crazy game on 2000 Atmospheres against Gumiho's mech, and it actually is going up on my YouTube tonight as today's upload. Just kind of a bit of a coincidence. And it was a very close back and forth game number 2. That game was... I described it in the video as the closest mech versus Zerg game I've ever seen. And it really was, but a lot of it was kind of because RagnaroK made life a lot more difficult for himself than it felt like it needed to be. So it was kind of more credit RagnaroK to making the game difficult, rather than credit Gumiho for... I mean, Gumiho played it well, etc., right? But to me, it was just a sign that RagnaroK's maybe that little bit shaky against the mech play, and I think that's always been a thing. He oftentimes found himself, and this isn't going to happen this game, but he oftentimes found himself stuck on Ling Bane compositions playing against mech. And he's always been trying to make those kind of things work, so I do worry a little bit about RagnaroK because I really feel like his versus mech is probably his weakest form of ZVT. And obviously that doesn't bode well for a Terran player that has opened mech here already. So we've seen our few Hellbats here. I mean, there's Corruptors on the way to shoot down the battlecruiser. Where is that battlecruiser? Back home. So there's Corruptors on the way to fight that. Obviously, the Corruptors do not help at all against the Thor Hellbat attack. That's what I was talking about when I was mentioning kind of the idea of, do you really want to build Corruptors in this scenario? Not really. You're expecting more battlecruisers, but they never came. So the idea from KeeN to cut out of those battlecruisers early has actually been, even if accidental, but, you know, brilliant. I mean, it was a conscious decision, and maybe somewhat fortunate the way in which it's turned out, but it is turning out so well for him. Going to be getting so much out of not having built additional BCs here. Well, I'm going to go pushing around this right-hand side. Ling Roach. Corruptor, really. I was going to say Ravager, but not actually really the case. As you see, the Hellbats pushing through. Cyclones with the max build upgrade now ready to get some lock-ons. And Overlord getting pushed away to the side as here we go. Tanks the siege, and the Roaches are taking a beating already. Now this hatchery in some trouble, taking some damage. Roaches are still getting blasted by the tank fire. And these couple of queens in some trouble too. Is just going to be seeing those roaches continuing to fall. It looks as though RagnaroK is slowly making his way through this, but a couple of Thors in the back might actually make the difference. Just that little bit of extra firepower to keep this going with a little bit of siege tank support. I mean, this hatchery was, well, I mean, it's about to go down here. I'm just going to be seeing these Thors and then focus on the units. The Cyclone locks onto a queen. Would I have rather he just right-click down the hatchery? He could have done it for sure. At the same time, Hellions and Cyclones gonna get this hatchery over here. So if you don't get the hatchery on the right side, you get the hatchery on the left. And KeeN makes a massive snipe on one of the bases of RagnaroK. And that's gonna put RagnaroK in a really, really difficult to play from position. It's really gonna complicate things. It's just been that kind of that knock-on effect, one thing after the other. The first little harassment from KeeN was good. RagnaroK expected there to be more than one battlecruiser. There was not. You know, and then this push started out and it continued, and that's basically this game so far. You know, just knock-on effect, one thing after the other, which is putting KeeN into a better and better position. So, really having a good game so far here, KeeN. Let's see if he can keep this up. Also bring our Hellion Cyclone tank around down to the south side. Just gonna start moving in here. A couple of lings going down. I mean, this hatchery gets cancelled again. So now RagnaroK is essentially working on a set of bases that just move upwards. As lings are gonna start running in, this Roach Ravager is gonna get hit hard. I mean, there is pathogen glands on the way. The idea of going to infestors, but to actually get anything useful off those infestors, I mean, a fungal growth or two is alright against the Cyclones, but there's so much more to be had in this game than a couple of fungals. I mean, Neurals would be great, but we're so far away from having Neurals. And now he sees the infestation bit, so that might go down before pathogen glands is done. He could still start some infestors, but he did not. Probably a little bit too caught up with everything else going on, honestly, as Army in the center gets pushed back. Overlords are being beaten down now by Cyclones as well. RagnaroK trying to think about when he wants to engage, if he commits too much down south. This army up here is moving back forward. Yeah, it's just rough. It's not easy to play out of this position. He's trying to now reestablish that fourth base right-hand side of the map as well. So if you could get that up, that would be the real first big step towards being properly back in this game. Two piles going down, tanks being picked away at as Cyclones coming through, Roach is being picked away at as well. On the top side, these Banshees are putting in the work, going after this hatchery, really trying to clean this up as Roaches and Ravagers are still being pushed away. The Overlord, not quite going down either. This Banshee squad is going to go down, is going to get that hatchery kill, so hatchery gets denied. I mean, just move after move, right? It's funny because the Corruptors are up, so they kind of are an answer to the Banshees. They just weren't there in time, and RagnaroK cannot break out of the 3-base chokehold that KeeN has on him at the moment. He is truly stuck. And he has one way out, but it's not in a positive way. It's to GG and to get out of there. And second map. Guys, what is up? It is so quiet in the chat. Looking at game streaming, dropping the Wardy hypes, but that's like it. 7 minutes. And one man dropping the Wardy hypes. What's up, people? How are we all feeling today? Hopefully everyone is doing well. Hope you've all had a great weekend. We're here to kickstart your week with a whole bunch of awesome Starcraft 2 from the WardiTV Summer Championship Korean preliminaries. Followed by, of course, followed by the why can't I talk? The ESL Open Cup Europe in a little bit. I had another weekend just away, guys, away from Starcraft because I was at a wedding, so my brain might take a little while to catch back on to how to say things, you know. Hi Zertrez, thank you so much for the 6-month resub. Welcome back. Appreciate it. Alright, RagnaroK in the bottom right is down a game as KeeN in the top left is Red Terran and looking good. WardiTV had the same army supply, which means absolutely nothing when you're playing against mech. Same army supply just loses the fight. I mean, it's just... You can't win a fight aggressively with the same army supply when you're playing against mech, and then he has no economy to build back up from, so... He was... dead. You could argue why not give it a go, but... basically because he's been in that situation so many times before and he knows it is genuinely impossible. KeeN would actually have to actively sabotage himself to lose from that position if RagnaroK had just gone with that one army and tried to attack, you know. KeeN would have had to, like, move command through attacks and all of this, and that is just... it just isn't going to happen. The base denial, I think specifically, was just way too good. KeeN was consistently looking after those bases and making sure that RagnaroK could just not get up to further expansions comfortably. And it just put RagnaroK in a position where he couldn't keep outbuilding the mech player very early on. Hey, what's up, Apricot? How you doing? Thank you so much for the 7-month resub on the Prime as well. Much appreciated. We also had Mr. Eagle on the 8-month resub. Says, accidentally took a reoccurring sub, but well, isn't too bad if it's Wardy. Thank you so much. We also had Wardy Dad dropping the 56-month resub on the Prime. Thank you, everybody, for the resubs to start our week as we have KeeN up 1-0. And look to see what he can do as we go into a game 2 in just a few short moments. Hey, VFN Exodus, thank you so much for the Prime sub as well for the 9 months. Welcome back. Once again, we wait to see what happens this game. Now, that's 2 Marines on the opening, no Reaper. It's actually 3 Marines on the opening, no Reaper. And that just means you're going to be a little bit more Marine heavy, a little bit less quick to the Hellions. There's a Rotron from RagnaroK. That's a super early Rotron, so as KeeN goes for a 3rd CC, this is a step in the right direction for RagnaroK if he's going to all in into this. Now, KeeN is going Tech Lab in the starport. It kind of looks like Banshees, though, doesn't it? It kind of looks like this might be kind of Cloaked Banshees, which would be pretty cool in terms of an opening. Yeah, I could get behind that. KeeN opened gasless last game as well. I don't think it was gasless last game. Yeah, this game was a bit weird on the build order. Sorry, I was a little bit quiet early game. I was just trying to talk to Rogue, who showed up late apparently. So yeah, no, kind of. I mean, that's why he gets 3 Marines and he skips that Reaper, etc. We have seen skipping the Reaper be more common lately. But the faster CC obviously helps a little bit as well when you play gasless. The main thing right now for KeeN is seeing that this is Roaches, because it's all well and good having a Banshee. If that Banshee is not in the right place, then you are in trouble. And these Hellions have moved right, which means the Roaches are going to move through the bottom of the map. That is a longer rush distance, but if they stay hidden, that would be the most important thing that could happen. You see one Roach being kept very far back there, scans the natural. KeeN is so... the one thing he sees on the 3rd is no drones, right? So he's like, why haven't you got drones? What have I missed? Scans the natural and he sees, okay, you are building Roaches. And so he missed all of the Roaches, but he did find one thing that was a little bit weird, and he's used that to get the information needed. And now this Banshee should not end up out of position. It should at the very least be at home in time to, to help defend these Roaches. As RagnaroK is just droning, by the way. Drones, Lair, Spore. Okay. I mean, obviously now, KeeN, he's not going to have his Banshee harassing because he's going to defend the Roaches. The Roaches are never going to show up. And yeah, KeeN just going to go up to Stim and kind of play from here. He's going to send the Hellions across the map. He has got triple bunker behind the natural wall off. And RagnaroK really does just start to move away from this initial Roach investment. Hasn't even, not even using them for anything, but this is where maybe these Hellions diving by could do a lot of work, right? If they were able to dive into a mineral line or so, I feel like they could be pretty successful. Just because there is a lack of lings on the map, because again, so much of the initial, investment, went into those Roaches. And right now we're waiting for the return on that, which is really much of anything. Banshees will provide high ground vision, kill an Overlord. Hellions still just stacking up on the right-hand side, and those Roaches are still just bottom left. Never showed themselves. Probably has KeeN guessing a little bit, like, what is going on here? It's definitely a little bit weird. Here we go, these Hellions though, and there's a lot of them, so they really can fight against the few Zerglings pretty well. And I would imagine the intention here to get up into the main base would work wonders as a way to deal some damage. So in we go. Dive in the main, and Evo Chamber comes up to block though. Full wall off to stop these Hellions getting in easily. No Banshee play at the same time. I thought we might see a few Banshees making a dive at some point of this. Gonna get a few more drones now. We ran out of Lings. It's just gonna be the Roaches to defend, but still time for a couple final Hellion shots. 12 Lurkers killed. There was a lot of Hellions that went down. We're gonna kill an Extractor over here as well. That's essentially a drone kill, as well as delaying the gas, because a new drone has to become that Extractor. I don't hate it with the Banshees. Obviously, it's not like a massive amount of damage, but it's very conservative with the Banshees. So the Banshees are going to stay alive, and they're going to get a chance to be used later. And again, somebody that's invested into Roaches, that's never a bad thing. Actually having the, well, they just cleaned up creep spread here, and that's amazing. But having Banshees against Roaches keeps you much safer from a lot of the Roach Ravager attacks. It's just constant damage output that's very difficult to get rid of for the Zerg. And those are the things that can go very, very well for you, as you just have a tank sieging up on the third base, and these Marines going to lift up into the main. Engine gets shots down. This Overseer gets chased away. It will go down as well, so Overseer gets picked off. Gonna drop a couple more depots across the front as our Marine tank army gathers together now. We're gonna go into Hydras as well, so this is gonna be Roach Ravager into Hydra. Not a tech choice you see every day of the week, actually. It's a little bit unique for sure, as we do see our forces coming forwards. I mean, I don't know how much I like it at all, if I like it in the slightest, honestly. I always feel like Roach Ravage into Hydra just invites tank production, and then you basically need to get to Hive Tech to deal with the tanks, because you need to get Vipers out, otherwise there's just not much else you can do. These Banshees putting out damage before the Overseer pops, because they killed the previous one, or the Marines killed the previous one. And this army of RagnaroK is just going to sit down here between the bases and just try and see what's going on. So, gonna see our Marines trying to push on through. A Lurgadan is building as well. The Hive is starting. More Lings and the Groove Spines already on the way up. Just gonna see that Bio Army going forward here. Roach Ravager being chased down a little bit. Just gonna see this Roach Ravager now making the move. There's a lot of tanks high ground that aren't properly bioled, so they will stay alive. And as the Bio survives this too, this kind of feels like KeeN is dominating the second game here against RagnaroK. Plenty of Queens going down also. A big turning point in this game can and always will be Lurkers, but it's not a given, and first you've got to get to those Lurkers, and even Lurkers themselves have a long build time. Like, yes, you're finally on the Lurker Den, but can you actually find the time to build Lurkers? That's actually kind of a serious question. I don't know if you can, because at the moment you just got to build Roaches to try and stay alive, and you're seeing that these Ravagers are just being shot down one at a time, and they are big, valuable pickups. I mean, we're seeing reinforcements being sent over. KeeN even lose a tank? He lost one tank so far. The trade's obviously fantastic for him, and it really looks like KeeN is going to run away with game one. Series 1 of the day, 2-0 over RagnaroK. That is a very,